Namaste. A very warm and a pleasant welcome to one and all present here. Today we are in Swayam Prabha course. The title of the course is Musical References in Sanskrit Literature. The very first module that we will be dealing with in this course is Harmony of Gods in Musical References in Sanskrit Literature. Friends, we all know that classical language is always Sanskrit. We also know the rhythm of each of us is music. So Sanskrit and music is always intertwined and it goes parallel with one another. We all know that Sanskrit is rooted way back to the ages, wherein we definitely not know that Sanskrit was originated in this era, because it is that old and that pure. As always, music is rooted to Samaveda, which is the most important Veda amongst all, which connects to Samagana, which are musical notes in nature. So the origin of classical music is rooted back to Samaveda in nature. So if we have to know more about music and Sanskrit and the references of music in Sanskrit literature, let us all embark on this journey and find some introductory facts and informations on musical references in Sanskrit literature. Sanskrit literature consists of Natakas, Kavyas, Mahapuranas, Mahakavyas. It roots back to Vedas, Upavedas, Upanishads, Puranas, etc. And we all know that music is also as old as we find Samaveda to be, because the very first references of music, the Nada Brahma, all these things are found in Samaveda. So, here friends, we will be knowing some of the intricacies of musical references in Sanskrit literature. Music is an integral part of human system. We find music everywhere in our day-to-day life. Music dates back to Samaveda, as I have previously mentioned. It transcends time, place, culture, emerging spontaneously across societies. Despite its ubiquity, the origins and effects of music remain mysterious always. As we find the reference here, Sangeetam api sahityam saraswastyaha stanadvayam ekam apata maduram anyad alochanamritam. This exactly talks about goddess Saraswati and her breast, which is in the form of Sahitya and Sangeeta. Music and literature are the twin breasts of goddess Saraswati. The former gives pleasure as soon as it is heard, whereas the later gives pleasure only after deep concentration and meditation. Such a wonderful reference that we have, which directly makes us realize how important is Sangeetam and Sahityam, which is music and literature. Let's now see the relationship between music and Sanskrit, the literature and the sound, as we say. Music's apparent lack of evolutionary function has fueled curiosity, leading to various sources surrounding its origin. Literature often attributes the human capacity for music to higher sources shaping cultural beliefs and practices. In India, music and literature have intertwined deeply, influencing each other, and their developments and perpetuation is also intertwined parallelly. You can't find music alone without literature, and often literature runs along with music. So it is very evident in Indian scenario. So friends, let's explore its effects on us. Puranic references such as those of river Saraswati. Saraswati is that river which flows underneath the earth. So it is unseen, it is hidden, is what we all know, understand, and we have heard. The goddess of music has inspired musical traditions and sound. Music, in turn, has been used as a tool for storytelling, as we say, katha kathana vidhi, conveying Puranic narratives through melodies and lyrics. The very best example of this would be Harikatha, the age old art form exclusively in India, which intertwines music and Puranic narratives. All the kathas of Purana is narrated with huge emotion, with very good music. You all would enjoy Harikatha listening to it. This symbiotic relationship has enriched both music and literature, contributing to the cultural richness of India. Scriptural and literary foundations of Indian music. As we all know, Indian music has deep roots in sacred scriptures and epics, drawing inspiration from the divine and the timeless stories that has shaped the cultural landscape of this beautiful country. From the Vedas to the Puranas, the foundational texts have imbued the art of music with profound spiritual and philosophical significance. Here, friends, we have several terminologies, musical terminologies, which are used in Sanskrit literature, which also dates back to Sanskrit literature, and the origin, the pronunciation, the structure of the word itself is borrowed from Sanskrit language, which is very evident in these examples. The Vedic literature has several musical technical terminologies. For example, Vedic Samhitas, collection of hymns, Brahmanas, prose texts to sacrifices and mystical significances. Sutras are nothing but the formulas, the maxims we call. Aranyakas are the Indian philosophy. Upanishad, once again, is very close to Indian philosophy. Pratishakyas are manuals devoted to the precise and consistent pronunciation of words. Siksha, which is a Vedanga, means phonetics, phonology, the study of sounds, as we say. So these are some of the technical terms that we often use while learning or which is related to the music. But these are just not related to music, but these terms are originated grammatically from the divine language, which is none other than Sanskrit itself. The Vedas. Let's have a small introductory session of Vedas here, as we need to know the Sanskrit literature in deep in the upcoming videos. Music originated from the chanting of Vedas from the good old Aryan age. Nada, the source of sound, turned into Chandas. The priests chanted hymns in a musical tone with a specific pronunciation according to a specific tune. Vocalizing syllables called sthobaksharas were added. Melody and rhythm created the music. So when sacrifices were performed, even today it is being performed, but while performing these sacrifices, one needs to understand that the chants of different mantras is particularly tuned with some intricacies, with a particular tune, with a particular rhythm, because of which we find several impacts on our mind and in our day-to-day life. Vedas are directly connected to music. Music is directly connected to Vedas in India. Priests used to perform group chanting at the sacrifices. There are many legends about the origin of music. The Yajurveda and the Samaveda were composed after Rigveda. So, Rigveda is supposed to be the oldest Veda. The Samaveda is especially important as it contains hymns, musical hymns, to be sung by those who did the chanting. These musical hymns are called as samans or samagana. It is this Veda which is specifically connected with music in India. Here we have a small reference to Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. There are several Puranas and Upapuranas. One such Upapurana is Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. Vishnu Dharmottara Purana in Hindu text is encyclopedic in nature. It has so many mantras, it has so many sacrificial rules. It is considered as a supplement or appendix to Vishnu Purana in specific. Among other things, it has chapters dedicated to grammar, which is Vyakarana, metrics, which is Chandas, lexicography, rhetoric, dramaturgy, dance, vocal and instrumental musical and art forms. Chapters 18 and 19 of its kandas deal with vocal and instrumental music. So we find early references in the Puranas too, which is Upa Purana, which is called as Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. We have several references to the plays of Kalidasa and Jayadeva's Gita Govinda. We have several other musical references in Sanskrit literature. One such is displayed here. In ancient India, music used to be a part of the famous Sanskrit drama like Mrichakatika and Abhigyana Shakuntalam, which is very popular in nature, which has Dushyanta and Damayanti, and the drama is projected in such a manner that it has both prose and poetry with beautiful chandas in it. It was an integral aspect of Sanskrit dramas like Abhigyana Shakuntala and Mrichakatika. The fourth act of Vikramorvashiya by the great Kalidasa, the great poet of Sanskrit literature, used different musical compositions like Akshipitika, Akshiptika, Dvipadika, Jambhalika, Khandabara, Charcharj, Khandaka, etc. These are some of the compositions which were mentioned in the early text of Vikramorvashiya, which is composed by the great Sanskrit poet Kalidasa himself. Several other literary sources are, one can find Natya Shastra. Natya Shastra is nothing but the ancient Indian treatise on performing arts, encompassing theatre, dance and music. It was written during the period of 200 BC in classical India, and it's traditionally attributed to sage Bharata. Bharata composed Natya Shastra. It primarily deals with stagecraft. It has huge influence on music, classical Indian dance, literature, art forms, and whatnot. It is very important to the history of Indian classical music because it is the only text which gives such detailing about music, musical instruments of that period in nature. Friends, we find some of the ragas that were mentioned in Sanskrit literature, which were exclusively collected here: Indu, Netra, Agni, and Veda. Indu stands, as we all can see and understand, Indu is nothing but the moon. Netra is nothing but eyes. We have two eyes. We have one Indu. Agni, the third chakra, is devoted to the three Divyagnis, that is fire, the lightning, and the sun. The fourth one is Veda. Veda denoting four Vedas in the name of the fourth chakra. Here we find some of the ragas that were exclusively referred in ancient Indian Sanskrit text: Bana, Rutu, Rishi, and Vasu, as you all can see. Bana comes in the fifth position. It stands for the 5 banas of Manmatha himself. Ritu is the 6th chakra, standing for the 6 seasons of Hindu calendar. Rishi, meaning it means sage, it is the 7th chakra representing Saptarishi, 7 rishis, 7 sages. Vasu stands for the 8th chakra, Ashtavasu of Hinduism. Once again, we continue the rest of the chakras here, which is Brahma, Dishi, Rudra, and Aditya. Brahma comes next, of which there are 9 in nature. So there are 9 Brahmas. So the 9th chakra is referred to the Brahma himself. Dishi, which is Dik. Dik means directions. So there are 10 directions and it is represented by the 10th chakra, Dishi. Rudra, Ekadasha Rudra as we call, there are 11 Rudras. So the 11th chakra represents Rudra. Aditya, the sun himself, the Bhaskara, the Surya as we call him. There are Dwadasha Aditya, so which means there are 12 suns. So the 12th chakra represents the sun himself. There's also a good reference from the Pratishakya, from the Rig Pratishakya, which means this Pratishakya is from Rig Veda, the first and the oldest Vedas amongst all. Trini Mandram Madhyamam Uttamam cha Sthananyaha Saptama Niva cha. The 13th Patala of Rig Pratishakya says there is a mention of octave of Tanas. Octave, it represents 8. So there are 8 Tanas that are represented in the Rig Pratishakya. 7 Yamas. There are Sapta Yamas as it is told, corresponding to our Saptaswaras and 3 Vrittis. We have Saptaswaras and we have 3 Vrittis. So that is correspondingly mentioned in Rig Veda Pratishakya as octave of Thanas and 7 Yamas as we find. So friends, with this, we have come to the end of Module 1, Harmony of Gods in Musical References in Sanskrit Literature. I hope you all have enjoyed and got an introductory conception of several references in Sanskrit literature, several references of music in Sanskrit literature. In the upcoming modules, we will be taking up each of the Sanskrit literature's element and we will be dealing with several musical references in those respective elements of Sanskrit literature. Thank you. Namaste.